In WoW, most mounts can be obtained from reputation vendors, drops, or achievements, but in this list we'll be looking at some of the most unique ways to get mounts throughout the entire game. And at number 10, we have the mount of the Sundancer. This rare NPC is a flying horse and is located in the far southeast of the zone, a bastion from the Shadowlands expansion. To get this mount, players must complete a series of steps which can be quite difficult. First, the player needs 2 buffs to properly interact with the NPC. The first buff is called Sunrider's Blessing and can be obtained from a statue called the Ancient Memorial on the edge of a cliff. The other buff players need comes from equipping and using the Skystrider glider. Upon using this item, players will receive a 5-minute invisible buff called Echoes of Drasilis. Once these steps are done, the player can jump off the cliff and fly to the horse. When you are flying near him, you can ride him by clicking on him. Once you are on him, an extra action button called Soothe appears. Mounting him will incur a lot of damage over time, so you have to be quick and spam the button a lot. Once you have successfully soothed Sundancer, he finally lands and he challenges you to a fight. You must then get Sundancer's health down to 10% within 5 minutes of using the Skystrider glider to get the mount, while the invisible buff is still active. Unfortunately, only Curian players can obtain and craft the parts needed for the Skystrider glider, and additionally, Skystrider glider can be janky and only have 1 use. On a related note, there is an achievement for completing the first part of the encounter, called In the Hot Seat. And at number 9, we have the Crimson Tidestallion from Najdatar, added in patch 8.2. This seahorse mount can be obtained from a Murloc NPC named Merle through a convoluted set of several steps. After freeing the Murloc Merle and doing associated quests, he will appear as a vendor. First, players must obtain a cape called the Ajari Storm Surge cape to be able to interact with several Murloc NPCs and access their wares. The cape is a random drop from one of the benthic cape caches, which adds the first RNG element. Second, players must wait for a Murloc NPC named Murloco to spawn in a small cave near the center of the zone. After defeating 2 Naga guards, he will become friendly to the player. While wearing this special Ajari Storm Surge cape, the player can talk to him and buy the Hungry Herald's Tentacle Taco for 666 gold. Unfortunately, this event happens very rarely and lasts for a short time, meaning it can take a long while to complete this step. Next, players must wait for a day when Merle sells the mount. He has a low chance to spawn and even lower chance to be selling the mount on the days when he does spawn. Like Murloco, you must be wearing the Ajari Storm Surge cape to be able to completely interact with him. He sells the mount for several ingredients which can be bought from various Murloc NPCs in the area. You must buy and sell various objects for different prices and amounts to and from 4 different Murlocs to obtain the ingredients you want, which can be quite a headache. All the details to reach the required amount of ingredients are too long to list here, but in total, all of the ingredients cost 1,796 gold. If you get lucky with RNG and get the mount, you get the achievement Merle's Secret Stash. For some reason, this is not an account-wide achievement, which is pretty weird, and this achievement is required for the meta achievement Undersea Usurper, which awards the Snapback Scuttler's mount in the title of the Deeps. And at number 8, we have the long-forgotten Hippogryph from the Zone of Azuna added in Legion. To get this mount, players must click 5 purple crystals throughout Azuna before everyone else, which sounds pretty easy, but is much harder than you would initially think. These 5 ephemeral crystals can be quite difficult to find and click for a variety of reasons. The most important of these is that the reigns of the long-forgotten Hippogryph mount only goes to the first player to click 5 of the crystals when they spawn. Second, the spawn time of the crystals is anywhere from 2 to 8 hours. Third, there are a huge number of possible spawn points, with Wowhead listing them at 99 throughout the entire zone, although all of them are supposedly accessible without flying. Additionally, if a player dies or leaves the zone, their progress is forfeit. Finally, there is the potential competition from other players. And at number 7, we have a 4-way tie: the Snowfeather Hunter, Predatory Bloodgazer, Brilliant Direbeak, and the Viridian Sharpclaw. To get these mounts, players must first capture 4 Falcosaur hatchling battle pets from different zones in the Broken Isles. The Bloodgazer hatchling can be found in Azuna, the Snowfeather hatchling can be found in High Mountain, the Direbeak hatchling can be found in Stormhind, and the Sharp Talon hatchling can be found in Val'sharah. Upon summoning any of these 4 pets, there will be a quest exclamation mark above their head. Clicking on the pet will start a quest, which leads to somewhat lengthy quest lines to get the mount associated with that pet. Each pet has slightly different quests, but all follow a similar set of 15 quests. These quests involve doing pet battles with the various other pets of the zone they were obtained from, doing world quests with the pets out, buying special items for the pets, and defeating dungeon and raid bosses with the pet out. With these pets actually having toys that come with them that let you dress them up, like fake teeth, a tiny backpack, dirty spoon, and a purple flower sun hat. The final quest for all 4 quest lines has the player return to the area where they have slaughtered so many of their siblings and heal the matriarch there. After healing the hatchling's mother, the pet will have hearts above its head and you'll be awarded the mount. And at number 6, we have the Riddler's Mindworm from patch 7.2 in Legion. To get this mount, players must find and click on 8 different pages throughout Azeroth, dungeons, and raids. The first page can be found in the Ledgerman Lounge in Legion Dalaran, the second in Duskwood, the third in Firelands raid, the fourth near the Lost City of Tol'vir dungeon in Uldum, the fifth in the Siege of Orgrimmar, the sixth in the Well of Eternity dungeon, the seventh near the Shadowpan Monastery in the Kunlight Summit, and the eighth in the pre-Nazoth Ulzum. Upon clicking on all the pages in the correct order, the player can go to Westfall and find a box on the beach called the Gift of the Mindseekers, where, when you open this container, you get the mount. At number 5, we have the Fathom Dweller from Legion. This mount drops from Kosumith the Hungerine, a world boss located in the Eye of Ajara. The world quest alternates between dropping this mount and a battle pet, Hungerine Claw, every 2 weeks. What makes this mount and world quest special, however, is that you need to complete a collection of orbs throughout the entirety of the Broken Isles in order to have access to this world quest. First, players must loot a weather relic from the cave in the Broken Shore. After talking to a troll NPC named Drakthul, players must find and click 10 orbs in the right order located all across the Broken Isles. Upon doing this and returning to Drakthul, the world quest becomes visible on the map. But it is possible for the world quest to just be the pet reward for months in a row if the RNG is bad, which has happened a couple of times in the past already. So a little luck is needed in actually having the world quest reward being set to the mount if you're trying to get it for yourself. And at number 4, we have Fabious, added in BFA. This rare spawns in Najdatar, and when you take a picture of him with the selfie cam, you get the mount directly in your inventory. Fabious spawns in 5 places throughout Najdatar, and his spawn rate is quite variable at 2 to 8 hours. It can be hard to take a picture with him because he moves so fast. Additionally, the camera can be kind of janky of the fact because it works in an inverted sense, which, when you're panicked because you just found out that you've been camping out for hours, can be quite confusing, and it can take several pictures before he appears in your bags. And at number 3, we have the Silverwind Larion, added in Shadowlands. Located in the Zone of Bastion, to get this mount, players must open the Vesper of the Silverwind treasure. However, to be able to open this treasure, you must find and click 50 blue anima crystal shards throughout Bastion. Several of these can be quite tricky to get to, although flying has made this far easier than it used to be. And additionally, 5 are located in dungeons. 2 are in Necrotic Wake, and 3 are in the Spires of Ascension. Once the players collected all 50 crystals, they can talk to Forgelight Hephaestus, who will craft the Crystal Mallet of the Heralds for them. The player can then go to the Vesper of the Silver Winds, a large silver bell, and ring it. The treasure will then appear and the player can loot it. Upon collecting all 50 shards, an achievement will be awarded called Shard Labor. And while this achievement keeps track of how many you are missing, it does not keep track of which you are missing, which means you can easily mess up and have to check every location again if you missed one, so take your time and keep track. And at number 2, we have the Lucid Nightmare, which was added in Legion. To get this mount, the player must first collect several notes which can be found throughout Azeroth. The first note is in Legion Dalaran, the second in Ulduar, the third in the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, the fourth in Nomergon, the sixth in Val'sharah, and the seventh in a special puzzle maze scenario. Each note is locked behind some sort of activity, usually some sort of minigame or puzzle to solve though. The seventh and final puzzle is the hardest, as it requires the player to align 5 orbs with their correct pedestals. The orbs are 5 different colors: red, yellow, green, blue, and purple. This doesn't sound too grueling until you learn that the maze is procedurally generated, and you can only carry 1 orb at a time. In addition, the maze also has teleporting edges, sort of like Pac-Man, and also random crossovers that make the entire thing a logical nightmare, so it can take you a very long time indeed to get each orb to where they need to be. Once the player has completed the final puzzle and found the 7th note, they travel to the Crypts of Karazhan. After navigating a spooky maze of dungeons and skeletons, the player will find the puzzler's desire container atop a pile of bones at the end of the last room. Opening the box will give the player the mount. And finally, at number 1, we have the Hivemind mount from BFA. This mount is a giant brain jellyfish thing that you transform into that can fly and takes an extraordinary amount of time and patience to obtain. The most unique thing about this mount is that there must be a group of 5 players in order to obtain it. First, players must obtain and wear a special amulet called the Talisman of True Treasure Tracking, bought from Grifta in the Lower Shattrath City in Outland. Next, players must obtain one of the 4 monocles. These monocles come in 4 colors: red, yellow, green, and blue. Each monocle has its own puzzles, the red requiring a massive trading minigame across Vashj'ir, the yellow requiring an absolutely massive logic puzzle within the halls of the Origination that can end up almost brain-numbing, the green being an invisible maze puzzle and knowledge of basement, and lastly, the blue requires you to venture across Azeroth and collect 7 letters and visit the Blue Dragonflight. Once 4 of the 5 players each have a different colored monocle, they must all use them on 4 special withered NPCs in Suramar. With the monocle equipped, upon the 4 players killing these 4 NPCs located in different spots at the same time, a series of beams will unlock leading to a room that was previously blocked off by the beams in the center of Suramar. At this 5th location, the 5th player must enter the room as soon as all of the beams are disabled. What follows is several more puzzles involving petting cats a certain number of times, jumping across floating hovering discs that constantly change, and finally doing a puzzle to cross a bridge of arcane lava. Finally, after completing all of these grossly oversimplified tasks, all 5 players must stand at a certain spot in a circle and start channeling a spell. Only then will players receive the Hivemind. Such a long and difficult task for a mount that's well worth it, and is rather unique, including the fact that it can hold up to 5 people at a time in it. The pilot transforms and then controls the Hivemind, while the other players vanish inside, and can actually interact with and gather nearby objects as they travel. And while the more people within this mount, the faster it goes. However, there is a downside, and that's the fact that only the last 4 people you did this secret with can become a Hivemind with you. Meaning, if you ever want to change who you wish to Hivemind with, you need to redo the final part of the secret in order to reattune to the 5 people who you wish to become a Hivemind with together. So while this mount is objectively faster than all other mounts by a fair margin too, the fact it requires only a specific 5 people to all be together heavily limits its use. Alright, and that's the list. If you know of any other hard to get mounts that we may have missed, or have ideas for future videos just like this one, let us know down in the comment.